Welcome back to Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the best from the world of CrossFit. Podcasts, news, special interest, health, fitness. If you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifier so you're the first to know when we have new episodes. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast. My name is Scott Schweitzer. I am the Clydesdale. He is Jason Larocque, and we're going to get to him in just a moment. But before we do, I need to thank my sponsor, Extend, Cellucor, C4. I love these hydration packets. They just came out about a month ago. Great flavors, lemon lime, strawberry banana, and raspberry lemonade. You can get those for at a minimum of 20% off if you use the code Clydesdale at checkout at cellucor.com or officialextend.com. Go check it out. They've got a lot of great products, proteins, BCAAs, anything you need to help you during your workouts. With that, I'm going to turn to my guest, Jason Larocque. Jason, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
I am so stoked to have you on. I saw what you did for Movember, and I guess you've actually done something the last 2 years to raise money. But this year you did a special event, and you actually did 30 workouts at 30 different gyms during the month of November.
Yeah. So this is my second year fundraising for Movember, which is an international organization where they're trying to spread awareness and raise funds for men's health and specifically with mental health, suicide prevention, and various types of cancers that affect men. And last year I rode a marathon. So I did the 42,000 meters on the rower. It took me 3 hours. I raised about $3,600 last year. And then this year I wanted to try something different. And I wanted to do 30 drop-ins at different gyms over the 30 days in November. It was something that was a little bit out of my comfort zone, obviously, and would require a lot of sacrifices. My wife was a little incredulous that I could make it happen and was kind of telling me, you sure you want to do this? And I just felt it was something I wanted to try. And over the course of 30 days, I dropped into 30 different gyms. About 27, I think, were CrossFit gyms, and then a couple other kinds of gyms like barbell clubs, and then a ski rowing erg workout gym facility, but predominantly CrossFit gyms. And it was great. I raised $6,000, and I think I was one of the top 150 individual fundraisers in the world. And it was great. I learned a lot. It was not easy for sure. But the CrossFit community really came together and supported me. So it was a great experience.
So why were you called to this cause and to do this type of an event?
So I've been in all boys education. I'm a school administrator for the past 20 years. I'm an only child and started to do some doctoral work. So I'm getting my PhD in education, and my topic is around masculinity. And I just feel like around the age of 35, 36, I found myself in a place where I just wasn't very happy. I wasn't healthy. Was dealing with some depression and anxiety. Didn't feel great. Was not my best self physically. And really met some people through CrossFit that brought me into the community, changed my life. I lost about 60 pounds, kind of shook my depression and anxiety, became healthier, became more intentional with how I was living my life. And over the course of the last 6 years, I'm 44 now. I have met a lot of men that I feel like are not necessarily mentally ill, but have some challenges in their life that they're dealing with and don't know how to ask for help, don't have the resources available to them, haven't cultivated friendships that allow them to ask for help. And I feel like my calling or my mission over the last few years is really reaching out to boys and men who are struggling and trying to show them that they can change, that there's things they can do to improve their lives.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you on is I've suffered from depression myself. Um, I don't know if you know my story. I used to weigh over 500 pounds. I was an athlete growing up. When I lost that team sport element and that community, I got into a really deep depression. It was in my early 40s that I found CrossFit, which got me out of my funk, but never then when I got injured, I'd never really dealt with the root problem. And so it's only been in the last couple years through counseling and therapy that I've been able to come out of that and understand it better. So I'm so stoked to have you on here because of that. So 30 workouts in 30 days. Did you do them one a day or did you have to do some multiples in a day?
So I was on a track to do one per day, and then I got sick towards the middle end, and I missed about 4 or 5 days with a really bad sinus infection. So towards the end, I was doing doubles and triples. There was a Sunday towards the end of November where I worked out in 3 different gyms, um, all Metro Boston area, which was intense. And my strain on my Whoop band was like I was like 19 or 20, I think. Um, but yeah, the plan was to do one per day, and then obviously I needed a rest day here and there, so I did some doubles and triples. But um, one of the things I learned in this process was I would walk into a gym and people wouldn't think twice about me. I was just kind of this person they didn't recognize, and people would like look at me or like wave, but it wasn't really much in terms of a connection. And then a lot of the gyms would allow me to speak at the end of class about why I was there and why it was important to me. And when I started to talk about the challenges I faced and the reasons I was there, people started to nod and give me affirmation. And then I had people come up to me after some classes and give me a hug and say, "My husband just killed himself," or "My brother took his life 3 years ago," or "My son's in the hospital with depression." And all of a sudden, when I was vulnerable and I made myself kind of human and flawed, it resonated with people. And I think one of the takeaways I took from this experience is I didn't impress people with how much I lifted or like what my fitness was or like what my time was or score. I impressed people when I told them why I cared and why I was facing challenges. And I think that's a lesson to be learned that people don't want to be impressed. They want to actually find some common humanity with people. They want to find struggles that we're all facing and bring them out into the open and not feel so alone. So that was one of the big things I learned is that so often men especially we have to impress people. We have to leave people with this impression of us as perfect, successful, powerful, and really at the end of the day, none of that actually impresses people. I think it's more about can you impress people with your authenticity, even if you're struggling. I think people that typically moves people, and there's a difference between moving people and impressing people. And I found that that was a lesson I learned in this process.
So this may be one and the same, but how much did you learn about yourself on this journey and what was your biggest surprise?
What I learned is that it's really easy to talk about things, um, but to actually do them and challenge yourself and lean into the discomfort and stick to a goal, that's like where the learning edge is. Like anyone can say something they want to do, and we all have good intentions and we all verbalize our goals, but to hold yourself accountable to a process, that's where the challenge is. And I did this alone. I didn't do it with friends. I purposely stepped out of my gym for 30 days. So a lot of my friends in my own home gym, CrossFit 5 in Beverly, um, they I lost touch with them, and a lot of them didn't quite understand what I was doing. And I did this for me. I didn't do it for anyone else. I did it for me, and I did it for the organization. And I think the hardest part is sometimes taking a leap and doing something different than other people because it's lonely and it's hard. But after doing this, I made so many friends and connections, and like people were like sending me messages and saying, "Can we talk? Can we stay in touch? I want to hear your story. Do you want to hear my story?" Um, and that took some courage and a risk stepping out there, but the reward was definitely worth it. But sticking through the process is definitely something I learned because 30 days is a long time. and I could have quit after 6 days and said, "Oh, I tried." No one's going to know. No one's going to resent it if I quit. But I did the uncomfortable thing, and I have two kids, and I have a job, and to do those things without, um, and maintaining my obligations, that was tricky at times.
I'm glad you brought up the kids because you couldn't have done this without the support of your family. And you have a wife and two kids. What was their support like?
They were proud of me. I mean, I think I they know how much I care about this topic, and they know how much I do my own work of trying to understand myself and grow and learn. And I think when you're connected to your purpose, people generally will step out of the way so that you can serve others. And I think over the last several years, like I've really leaned into my purpose and my passion and my mission, and I can finally articulate it. And what a gift that is! But when you're able to articulate and understand your mission on this planet and what you're trying to do, people respect that and they want to support that. And I think if this was whimsical or not in alignment with who I am and my values, like I think that it would have been a lot harder for people to support. But they knew that this was something that I cared about and that I was putting my story and my heart out there. And they were super supportive, and my friends were supportive. And it was good because it allowed me to take my passion out into the world, and if anything, I've been more motivated to do some more of this type of stuff, and I'm trying to spend some time thinking about that, and what's my next way to get my platform and my story out there.
So, how did you find CrossFit when you needed it most?
It's a good story. I had a friend who was doing it, and we lost touch after college. And he called me out of the blue, and I was really lonely. I didn't have many friends. I was working. I moved, and I was kind of feeling isolated. And this friend from college called me up and said, "I've been doing this thing, and I want you. I think you'd be really good at it, and I want you to try it with me." And I was overweight at the time, wasn't in shape. My workouts were like ride the treadmill, ride the elliptical for 15 minutes, like low heart rate. I wasn't really doing much, and this friend said, "If you want to try it with me, I'll drive to you and we'll work out in the morning before work." And he lived an hour away. And this was a friend who literally showed up for me at a time when I needed him. And he drove an hour to meet me at my gym at 5 a.m. So he left his house at 4 a.m. and was just being present to me and wanted to bring me into this community. And once he got me in the door and got me enrolled in the gym, I was hooked after a couple months. And then I was just on this path of like growing and self discovery and evolution, and started to take care of my body, my mind, my diet. And having been a former college athlete, high school athlete, it was in line with how I used to train and what I used to do. Olympic lifting was comfortable for me. I like loud music. I like community. I like friendships. I love locker room type situations. And what I love about CrossFit is that you get exercise, community, and friendships in an hour a day. And I don't know of many other things where you can spend an hour and have so many needs met um, efficiently, and fill your tank in such a way. And once my body adjusted to the demands of it, it became like an addiction, and I just love it. And I got my L1. Have been coaching off and on for 6 years, 5 years, and I've learned a lot by coaching people too.
So, one of our listeners, Elise, who is a friend of the show, she said, with more and more of these stories, it seems like we don't find CrossFit, CrossFit finds us. And
Yeah,
I
and
couldn't have put it better than that.
yeah, I mean, it's literally it's about finding your tribe, and if you're putting some good out into the world, it doesn't matter whether it's CrossFit or running or book clubs or parent clubs, like whatever it is you find. But we all need a tribe where our values are in alignment and we're supporting each other and we're kind of calling each other to be our best selves. And CrossFit really lends itself to all of that. So
Is that why CrossFit was the right avenue to use in this endeavor you did last November? Because of all of those things.
yeah. I mean, I CrossFit, people come into CrossFit with needs. We all have human needs, and um, you don't pay the membership fees and subject yourself to some of the hardest workouts and the suffering of those workouts unless you are really trying to gain an advantage in your life, from a physical standpoint, a health standpoint, a confidence standpoint. And I knew that if I walked into these spaces and I was authentic and I told my story, I would make friends. I mean, let's be honest, it's hard not to like people in a CrossFit gym. Like I haven't really met too many unfriendly people in a CrossFit gym. So I knew that I would be welcomed, especially being a coach and having some experience. And people rose to the occasion. People were open. People waived the drop-in fees for me. People allowed me to speak. People, had workouts and they called them Movember workout. They would send little blurbs about my challenge out in the member email that goes out each week. Because ultimately we're all trying to serve our communities. That's why we get into coaching and that's why we open gyms. None of us are making millions of dollars doing this, but I think we all feel like lives can be changed, by walking into a CrossFit gym. And I think that was, my message resonated with some people.
So in your own story, you said that you were in need and you had a friend that reached out. I know that you have a very strong faith, and that's a very important part of your life. Do you think God played a role in your friend reaching out to you, or did he see something that he needed to reach out to you about?
I think how God has played out in my life in the last, let's say, 8 years of this, like big chapter of my life where I've evolved and been open to growth, is that if you're silent and stop telling yourself stories, if you allow your story to actually happen, instead of trying to always control your story, and you're open to that vulnerability, and you're open to that, ambiguity, and you're open to that possibility that the story can be rewritten for you and that we don't have the answers, and you kind of submit yourself to that chance, then you're more aware of signs that cross your path. And I think my friend calling me, I was open to that call. I didn't dismiss it. Um, the masculinity work that I've been doing, I was open to listening to what my heart was telling me I was interested in and what I was called to do. Um, and the more I submit to like what is next, the more attentive and aware I am of signals and signs all around me. And I try to follow those. I don't judge those. I open myself to various things that present themselves to me. And I haven't really been disappointed in that approach. And I think there's an element of that, God being behind that, because I think that part of a faith relationship is trust and lack of ego.
Wow. So you're studying masculinity in your PhD. So is your contention that because we men are raised in a way where there are certain expectations that it's causing or I guess it's causing this depression later in life in the mid 30s to early 40s?
I think masculinity and our ability to discern and differentiate the models of masculinity that are out there is literally a matter of life and death. And I don't say that lightly, because if you look at all of the health data, 80% of successful suicides are men. Men are dying on average 7 years earlier than women globally. Men lead, women in the top 12 indicators of mortality and morbidity. Um, there's something that goes beyond genetics that explains all of this information, and it's how we're socialized. And I think the hardest part is that, fish are the last to notice the water that they're swimming in, and I think part of that goes to masculinity. Like we're so engrossed and saturated with all these messages about being a man that we never actually stop and try to think about if it's serving us or not. And it is not masculine at all to have self-care. It's just not. I mean, men do everything for everyone else. They feel like they are either protectors or providers. They put their families, their jobs, everything else first, and then they have nothing left. And people wonder why men have heart disease in their 50s. Um, and I think it takes courage for men to stop other men and say, you know, we need to start taking care of ourselves and attack our own inner work as uh, as carefully as we do everything else in our life. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently is like, what is my understanding of what friendship is? And I think one of the things that I've learned is that if you can cultivate a solid core of friends and practice what I've been calling love-based accountability, um, where we hold each other accountable to our potential as human beings. And I think that it's not an accountability where we make people feel shame or disgrace if they fall short, and it's not an accountability where there's punitive or punishment if we don't meet goals. But it's more about an accountability with friends and people we care about because we know that they can do better and that it's rooted in love. It's not rooted in jealousy or ego or competition. And I've found that CrossFit friends can often do that for each other. You know, hey, I haven't seen you in the gym in 10 days. You all right? Just checking in. Having a hard day at work. Let's grab a workout tomorrow, 6 a.m. I'll see you there. Um, and I just have been cultivating those types of relationships over the past 5 to 10 years. And it has really served me. And I try to do that for other people. And that's how we can protect each other and keep each other healthy and safe and not feeling isolated and overcome some of the social norms that men have been taught their whole lives about being independent and stoic and rational and strong. And I think that it takes work, but cultivating a group of friends as guys who can support each other through the hard times is really important.
Yeah, our listener Bruce Wayne said men carry a heavy burden that some keep deep inside. And I can't agree more. I think my biggest problem is that self-care aspect. I've had this lately, I've had to surround myself with people who can remind me that I can't I can't be that protector or that support for others if I'm not taking care of myself first. And so how do you know of tools that we as men can use other than friendships?
It takes effort and it takes prioritization. The easiest thing to do as men or I mean, in all, first thing I want to say is that I think you can care about men and want good for men and not have it be a cost to women. Like I think I can be an advocate for men and be a feminist at the same time. Like I don't think it's a zero sum game, but I think that self-care can take many shapes. I mean, it might literally be, I'm gonna go and get a massage. I'm gonna go and, um, eat a good meal for myself. I'm gonna go to church. Working out, certainly, obviously, there's a mind-body connection where if we're working out, our mind typically resets the software a little bit. But self-care can look different for many people. Some people love, um meditation. Some people love breathing. Some people like nature. I'm not really a nature person, but I know a lot of people that love getting out into nature and spending time in that way. Um, so it doesn't matter quite what you do, but it's like what brings you peace and what brings you understanding and what what makes you healthier. And that's different for everyone. But I think we need routines that we can have, and part of that is good communication. You know, I can't advocate for what I need if I can't communicate it to people. And I think that's one of the other challenges men have is they're not typically good communicators. If you're asked how do you feel, most men say I'm fine, I'm good, I'm all right. But what does that really mean? And we need to practice saying what we need to be our best selves, because that's not something we're typically good at.
Yeah, we have another comment coming from a woman. I do not think men are less manly if they talk about their feelings or take time for self care. I actually think they are more manly.
Yeah, I mean, that's a certain level of enlightenment or mature thinking that I think is valuable. And I think unfortunately a lot of society doesn't really feel that way. And it's not the messages we get, whether it's through movies or, images in popular media. If you go to a magazine stand in Barnes and Noble and you try to find representations of your typical guy, you're going to have a hard time. I mean, images of masculinity and manhood are they're so wrapped in like these stock images of like hunters and bodybuilders and fashion models that like it's really hard to see yourself represented. And I think that's one of the benefits of being in a CrossFit gym is you walk in there, there's people of all kinds. It's not just the super fit, the super good looking, the super young, shredded people. It's people of all body types, people of all ages, people of all abilities. But the one thing they do have in common is that they have a good mindset and they have this willingness to kind of endure some sacrifices to improve themselves.
Yeah. So I want to kind of get it back to the what you accomplished in November. And so I'm going to pull up your Instagram where you list the 30 gyms because when I saw the list, it actually hit me harder about what you accomplished when I saw how many gyms it actually was. So I have it up now. I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit. See if we can scooter it over, maybe. So anyway, here's your list of 30 gyms. You are from the Northeast, correct? In the Boston area?
Yeah, Metro Boston. Most of the gyms were probably within 45 minutes to an hour of my house. Three different states were represented. Some of the more well-known gyms in the area, and then some smaller gyms. It was some of the larger gyms and some of the smaller gyms, and one of the challenges that I didn't really anticipate is like when you're in one gym and you're working out every day, the programming makes sense and there's a rationale, right? There's periodization, there's different movements that are built on top of each other. But when you're dropping into 30 gyms in 30 days, like you're in the middle of their periodization, their programming, and none of it makes sense to you as the person who's going in 30 different gyms. So the first day was a 20-minute one rep max front squat. The second day I walked into the gym was a 20-minute one rep max front squat. And then the third day I walked into the gym, they were like 100 squat cleans for time. So I was saying to myself, this is not going to be that sustainable. I mean, I'm really crushing my legs here. But over time, it kind of worked out, and it wasn't too. It wasn't like those first 3 days, but those first 3 days, I was getting a little nervous.
Yeah, I actually had that as a question on my board here because I cannot imagine 30 drop-ins. There would be no consistency. It's just a roll of the dice. It's truly the old hopper. Like spin the hopper. What do you get today?
Yeah.
Um, with no planning behind it. What toll did the 30 days take on your body?
The first week was really tough. I had also just come off meniscus surgery about 3 months ago. So I was trying to like really build back some load for squatting and trying to rework like my some of my movement patterns. So I was a little nervous about that, but overall it was fine. I did a lot of cold plunges on the weekends. I really try to tighten up my nutrition. I took a couple supplements to kind of recovery based supplements. Did a lot of foam rolling, a lot of stretching, uh, and it wasn't too bad to be honest with you. In fact, the 31st day, I was presented with the opportunity to like take a day off or go back to the gym, and I was about this close to going back to my home gym for another workout because I was like, "This is so much fun." But I took the rest day just because I felt like it was important to spend some time with my family. But yeah, I haven't missed more than one day since 1 or 2 days since the end of November, and I just feel like I'm in a really good place right now.
So what is the furthest you had to travel?
I think I traveled an hour and 15 minutes, one of the gyms, and well, actually, yeah, about an hour and a half, actually. I went to Maine for a weekend and got a couple of gyms in Maine, so that was about an hour and a half away. During the week, it was about an hour and 15 minutes, and that's tough because you got traffic and, you're working and you got different things to do. So all in, you're doing an hour workout and it's an hour and a half each way. It's a 4-hour process, from door to door. So like I said, it was not easy. There was some sacrifices, but with the amount of money I raised and the people I met, I really feel like it was a memorable experience.
So how did you prevent like cramping up in the car on the way home? Did you did you do some cool down exercises before you left?
I did a lot of I would try to like really spend 15 to 20 minutes after each workout to either ride the bike to cool down, foam roll, do some stretching, do some mobilization. I very rarely like finished the workout and packed up and left because I just knew that if I didn't spend some time on that, it would really distract from what I was trying to do. So I did a 15 to 20 minute cool down after every workout, which is not something I would typically do.
And then you said you got to speak to people after the sessions at a lot of the gyms. What was that connection like? And what are some of the stories that you heard from people during that time? And did any men come up to you?
Yeah. I remember one of the things I would do at the end of classes is I'd ask the group if we could take a picture together, just to like keep track of the number of people I was working out with, which I think was over about 225. So over the month, I think I worked out with like 225 different people. Um, but one of the things I remember vividly is taking the photo, and I remember there was this guy who was like 6'6", big beard, probably 260 pounds, this huge guy, and he was standing behind me in the photo, and all of a sudden I felt this hand on my shoulder, and I was like, wow, that's strange. And I looked at the picture later, and he just put his hand on me like, I got you. And like that image stayed with me and like kept me going and motivated. But it was such a small thing, but I was like, that was a sign of like, we're in this together, and like I feel you. And I think that when I talked about some of the challenges I had with my feelings about myself or being unhealthy, and people I know that have been struggling with their health, um, as men and boys, that's like a real thing. It's out there. I mean, I'd be surprised if there wasn't a family that has a male in their family who's struggling. And not that there's not women struggling, but I think men suffer in silence. And I think that a lot of times people don't really bring it out of the shadows. And I think my presence, my story, my ability to say like, what you see now is not who I was before, and I care about boys, I care about my son, I care about, you know, healthy men. People, I think, brought things out of the shadows. They found someone they could say something to. I had this experience, or someone I love is going through this. Like, I would love to introduce you to them, or thanks for what you're doing. Keep going. I got hugs. I got, uh, direct messages on Instagram. I got high fives. I got like the hand on the shoulder, and what random guy would put a hand on some other guy's shoulder as a sign of like, I'm with you. It doesn't happen. Um, so those were kind of the moments that I think, my goal when I work with people and I work with men or I work with boys is like, I want to share a moment with you. Or I want to teach you something that you can then take into your circle and make an impact. I don't care about making an impact on a couple people. I want to make an impact so that someone leaves with something I said or something that I help them feel something. They can go to their circle of people and they can do the same for them. And then if we keep doing that, all these things that are in the shadows, all these things that people are suffering with alone, it comes out, and people can acknowledge it and talk about it.
You've really inspired me because I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, very blue collar, very much the stereotypical be a man. Everybody around me were factory workers, steel mills, oil industry. And since I've left there and since I've now become more enlightened to my own mental health, I feel a disconnection to where I came from. And I need to find a way to reconnect so I can share that with others.
I find the tension here is that when people learn some things and they change for the better, some people are insecure about that, and they're like uncomfortable with people who are dedicating themselves to learning and growing. And the threat for people that are trying to get better and work on themselves and make a difference, the challenge is that you don't want to come across as full of yourself or I have it all figured out. Everyone look at me. And that's the danger. But I think that we show people, we teach people through what we do, not what we say. And I was talking to a class today. I'm in education. I was talking to a class today and I said, if you ask people about a person, if there's hesitation, that person hasn't done their job. And I think through the way we behave, the way we treat people, the emotions we leave people with, that's our life's work. You can say anything you want. You can get up on a pedestal, you can get up on a soapbox and talk and talk and talk. But ultimately our legacy is what we do every day, and that's our life's work. It's not this grand thing that happens to us. It's not this like big accomplishment we get. Our life's work, our legacy is what we do day in and day out. And ideally, if we're consistent with our values, our purpose, our mission, what we believe in, then you leave no doubt. People should be able to speak about you in a way that is very definitive, very clear, because you have left a consistent impression on them. And the way I can talk about these things now and the way I think about them is not who I was 10, 15 years ago. It's just not. But what it also shows is that it's never too late to like work on yourself. Um, I wish I was the person I am now back then. Like I have regrets that I wasn't more sensitive, more aware, more thoughtful back then, but I can't change it. All I can do right now is just like with the understanding and the wisdom I've gained is like go out there and try to help someone else.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in counseling. I think we as men need someone that we can talk to that's an uninterested third party, that we can have that conversation and have a better understanding of our lives because they're not a part of it, if that makes sense. Um, and that's helped me dramatically. And I will also say it's hard to be full of yourself when you've gone through this. Now, someone may look at it that way because I still am looking for more answers. Like I have not figured it all out yet. That's for sure. Um, but that openness, we need to get more accustomed to men being open and with their feelings so that we can have those tough conversations.
Yeah, I agree.
So the last couple things I wanted to talk to you about is how do we get this awareness out in more than just November? Are there any plans for you to do that in any way?
I've been trying to discern what my next step is to talk about this message and get this awareness out there beyond just the way I'm choosing to live my life now. I don't, there's obviously like things you can do and formal ways you can focus on this project, this work. So again, I guess if I'm going to stay true to my approaches, it's just being open and honest and listening and trying to follow the signs. And maybe being on this podcast, is a sign, and maybe I'm opening myself up to this experience, and maybe someone will hear it and offer a suggestion to me or give me an idea. But I'm looking for ways to partner with people, partner with groups, partner with people that are interested in helping men be healthier and boys be healthier, and showing them that there's other ways to be a man in the world that are healthier and more inclusive and more respectful. I mean, there's a lot of influencers out there that are kind of misleading men and boys into thinking, what they should be doing, how they should be thinking. and ultimately I want people to do their own thinking. I think we should all be critical consumers of ideas and models that are out there. So I want to start with the people in my life, but if there's ever a way for me to expand my message, I think I would love that. I'd be open to it.
My follow-up is next Movember, would you do something like this again, or do you think you need to do something different every year?
I mean, I think I have to do something different every year. I would love to. I've done two Movembers alone the last 2 years. Movember allows you to do some fundraising, some things as a group. Like you can have a team and you can get 15 people or more, 5 people, and you can kind of all fundraise to the same account. And like, I think it'd be nice to find some people that are as passionate about this um, line of thinking and work as I am, and get together and pool our resources so it doesn't feel so alone. I think it'd be great to do this with a couple of other people that are like minded. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for next year. But I want to choose something hard that will be, difficult and force me out of my comfort zone again, because I've learned something about myself the last 2 times I've done it.
Yeah, and one of our listeners actually brought up a suggestion. Any thoughts about having a CrossFit comp like MOSFit did for suicide awareness? And then she followed that up by, it was a local comp, but a lot of awareness was brought to it on IG. Many people couldn't attend in person, bought a shirt and did the workouts at their home or their own gym.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to that. It's funny. One of the CrossFit owners that I had the privilege of attending their gym for this Movember was at the end of class. I told my story, and the owner came up to me and said that he had lost 3 close friends to suicide in the last 5 years. And he said, I've been thinking about this very thing for several years now, and I think you walking into my gym is, kind of a sign that I need to kind of move forward with um, this 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 pain I have about my friends. And I think he and I are going to be in conversation about potentially collaborating for something in the spring. But yeah, I'm open to anything that will bring awareness and help people.
Are you still taking donations?
I believe I am, and I think I haven't gotten any notification that it's off. So I'd be happy to share the information with you post show. And absolutely, I think they still accept donations.
Yeah, so I found your link. It looks like it's still active.
Great,
I can actually bring it up to show people, and then I'll put the link in the comments below um, after when we put this up permanently on YouTube, so people can click on that. So let me pull that up real quick, and there it is. It looks like you can still hit all the buttons and donate to your cause right there.
that'd be awesome.
So I will go ahead and share that link after we're done today and put that in the comments. With that, Jason, this has been an awesome episode. Thank you so much for everything you do. I do want to point out that this is a great test case for us because after the first of the year, our partners at C4, Extend, and Cellucor we're going to partner up to do a weekly good news going on in the CrossFit fitness space. Um, and we want to do stories like this, and they want to back whatever they're doing. So I'm going to send this story to them, see if they want to back anything that you're doing with this, and maybe make a donation themselves.
That'd be awesome. I mean, if any people that have influence in the fitness community and connections and partnerships are interested in, talking offline about ways that we can support men and boys who are struggling, yeah, I would love any partnerships, no matter what form it takes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jason, and good
All right,
luck
thank you.
with everything you're doing.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.